Alright, hey guys, what's up? It is another Monday, and you know what that means? It is Murderous Mondays, and you know what that means? We are going to be looking at a case that I talk about serial killers, and upload every Monday, hence the name. And the next serial killer that I will be talking about is the dating game serial killer Rodney Alcala. Who was he? What was his early life like? And why and how did he become so evil? I will answer that and more in this video as I take you down the perspective mind of a serial killer. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to let you know that it's a 2 week, it's gonna have 2 parts in it. Because I couldn't fit everything in this video, so I'm gonna do 2 videos. Um, I'm gonna stop like halfway in my research. Um, uh, yeah. So next week I'll do the second half of Rodney Alcala, the dating game serial killer. And if you guys do not like to, and if a trigger warning, if you guys do not want to hear or talk about rape or anything or murder or anything malicious or photography of minors, I would suggest you leave this. I would suggest you click off of this video and take care of yourselves. And so let's get into it. Rodney James Alcala wasn't even his real name. His name was Rodrigo Jaquez Alcala Becure. He's probably French or something. He was born August 23rd, 1943. And he recently passed away. Well, not recently, but a couple years ago, he passed away on July 24th, 2021. It says due to some kind of like health complications. I think it's probably due to COVID. He was an American serial killer and sex offender who was sentenced to death in California for 5 murders committed between 1977 and 1979. And Rodney received an additional sentence of 25 years to life after pleading guilty to 2 further homicides committed in New York State in one in 1971 and one in 1977. While he has been conclusively linked to 8 murders, Alcala's true number of victims remain unknown to this day and could be much higher. Authorities believe the actual number is as high as 130. Alcala complied a collection of gathered a collection of more than 1,000 photographs of women, teenage girls, and even boys, and many of them were posed in sexual poses. In 2016, he was charged with the 1977 murder of a woman who was identified in one of his photos. Alcala is known to have assaulted one other person that he photoed. Subject that aff- assaulted another photographic subject, which means that like a person that was like photographed. Photographed, I wanna touch you. Okay. Uh, yeah, I bet he did too. Alright. And police have speculated that others could be raped or murder victims of of the photos. Like, yeah. Prosecutors said that Alcala, quote, toyed, end quote, with his victims by strangling them until they lost consciousness and then waited until they came back around, sometimes repeating this process several times just for the thrill of it, before eventually killing them. One police detective described Alcala as a killing machine, and others had compared him to Ted Bundy, which is a continuing problem with serial killers. He paved the way for serial killers, obviously in a very bad way. Alright, early life. Alright, Rodney Alcala was born in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, Texas. He was the third out of four children born to a Mexican American couple Raul Alcala Bucure from August 3rd, 1906 to January 8th, 1962, and Ana Maria Gutierrez on from January 10th, 1909 to February 18th, 1999. Wow, so she lived a long time, and this was like 100 years ago that she was born, like a little over. Yeah. In 1951, Alcala's father moved the family to Mexico and abandoned them 3 years later. In 1954, when Alcala was 11 years old, his mother moved him and his two, him and his two sisters to to a suburban Los Angeles. Alcala was an academically gifted student who was popular among his peers and was supported by his family. He attended various private schools during his youth before graduating from Montebello High School. He was on the yearbook planning committee and on the track and cross country team. In 1961, at 17 years old, Alcala joined the United States Army to become a paratrooper and served as a clerk. During his service, he was noted by his commanding officer as being manipulative, vindictive, and insubordinate. Alcala was disciplined on several occasions for assaulting young women. In 1964, after what was described as a nervous breakdown, which he went AWOL. Oh, in 1964, after what was described as a nervous breakdown, during which he went AWOL and hitchhiked from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, all the way to his mother's house in California, which I don't know how that's possible. I mean, obviously it would be a while to walk. I mean, it's from one end of the country to the other end. I probably read that wrong, but I don't know. Alcala was diagnosed with an antisocial personality disorder and estimated to have an IQ of 135. He was subsequently discharged from the Army on medical grounds. Other diagnoses later proposed by various psychiatric experts at his trials included narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and malignant narcissism with psychopathy and sexual sadism comorbidities. After leaving the army, Alcala graduated from the UCLA School of Fine Arts and later studied film under Roman Polanski, which I've actually heard of. I've actually heard of him. I think he's like a senator or something. Some kind of like political person. At New York University, NYU. And comorbidities are the presence of one of more additional conditions often occurring or often concurring that is concurrent with a primary condition. Alright, now we actually get to the killings. Ooh. The Shapiro assault. Alright. On September 25th, 1968, a passing motorist named Donald Hines called police after witnessing Alcala lure Tally Shapiro, only age 8, into his Hollywood apartment. Shapiro, who was residing at the Chateau Marmont, which is probably some kind of like apartment or something, like hotel or something, like the Marriott or something. Shapiro, who was residing at the Chateau Marmont with her family, was approached by Alcala on her way to school when he pulled up beside her in his car and asked if she needed a ride. Shapiro initially refused, but when she heard him say that he knew her parents, she got into his car. Alcala then took her to his apartment, where he told Shapiro he wanted to show her a picture. When the police arrived, Shapiro was thank God found alive. Although she has been shocked, what's the phrase? She's been shocked to the rest of her life because she's been raped and beaten with a steel bar. And Alcala fled. Shapiro was in a coma for 32 days and spent many months in recovery. Alright, now the move to New York. In New York. To evade the arrest warrant stemming from the Shapiro assault, Alcala left California and enrolled at NYU using the alias fake name John Berger, which I actually remember hearing. I actually remember hearing a documentary of that name somewhere. In 1971, he obtained a counseling job at a New Hampshire art camp for children using a slightly different alias, John Berger. Now the first alias was Berger, and the slightly different one was like Burger, Burger. During this time, Alcala began to work for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association, where he worked in an office with another serial killer, Richard Cottingham. Neither man has claimed to have been aware of each other, nor is there any evidence, and they were familiar with each other prior to their respective arrests. Now, the Criley murder. Cornelia Criley, a 23-year-old Trans World Airlines flight attendant, was found raped and murdered in her Manhattan apartment on June 12th, 1971. I guess there was actually trans back in the day. I don't know. Alcala had strangled her with her own nylon stockings, leaving her dead in her apartment at 427 East 83rd Street. It is believed that Criley met Alcala as she moved into her new apartment, and that she might have accepted his help in moving some furniture. Her murder remained unsolved until literally like over 40 years later in 2011. Now, finally, the identification and arrest of them two. Or just of her, I don't know, just one of them. Alright. The FBI added Alcala to its list to 10 most wanted fugitives in early 1971. A few months later, two children attending an arts camp noticed his photo on an FBI poster at the post office. Alcala was arrested and extradited back to California, where his mother lived. By then, Shapiro's parents had relocated their entire family to Mexico and refused to allow her to testify at the trial, which Shapiro was the one that was alive, but his first victim, but he say but he didn't he didn't kill her. He just raped and beat her with the steel bar. Since the authorities were unwilling to charge him with rape and attempted murder without the primary witness. Since the Alcala was convicted of a child molestation and sentenced to only 3 years in jail. Only if they would have noticed about the Criley murder, he might have actually got life. Alcala was paroled in 1974 after only 17 months. So that was only like a half of the time that he was supposed to be there for. Not even, because 18 months would have been 3 years. Would have been half of 3 years. But anyway, nonetheless, Alcala was paroled in 1974 at 17 months, and after only 17 months. Less than 2 months after his release, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl identified in the court records as Julie J. Because remember, she was still a minor, and I bet her parents didn't want the news of her of their child to be reported. And Julie J had accepted what she thought would just be a ride to school, not knowing that she would actually be killed. Alcala was again paroled in 1976 after only serving 2 years in jail for her. I think it didn't say if she. It didn't say if he killed her. It just said that he assaulted her. Now, Hoover's disappearance. It's one of, so I think it's Hoover's disappearance. After Alcala's second release in 1977, his Los Angeles parole officer took the unusual step of permitting a repeat offender as known flight risk to travel to New York City. NYPD cold case investigators now believe that a week after returning to Manhattan, Alcala killed Ellen Jane Hoover, a 23-year-old daughter. All right, now get this. No, she was actually famous too, well, somewhat, because remember, because she was a 23-year-old daughter of a nightclub owner, Herman Hoover, and goddaughter of both Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., which back in that day, those were some big name rock stars. They're both from the Rat Pack with Frank Sinatra, and there was one other guy. It was Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., someone else. I forgot the other guy's name. Elvis. No, I don't know. Her date book showed. Wait, hold on. Hoover was last seen at her New York apartment on July 15th, 1977. Her date book showed that she had an appointment to meet with John Berger that same day, which remember that was um Rodney Alcala's first alias name as hold on, where does it say Berger? Okay, here we go. Well, Burger with the ERGER. Yeah. Yeah, with the ERGER. And which was actually the same person that killed her, Rodney Alcala. Later in 1977, a tip to the FBI was made about how Alcala had been arrested by the police a few years previously for the Shapiro case in New Hampshire. Alcala admitted to knowing Hoover under questioning, but investigators could not arrest him since they had not found her body. Her remains were eventually discovered buried under heavy rocks on a hillside overlooking the Hudson River near a location on the John D. Rockefeller estate, where an aspiring model would later report that Berger, which remember is still Alcala, had taken photos of her, that's how that comes into play. Alright. Now move to Los Angeles. In 1978, Alcala worked briefly at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter, which I never knew what that meant, and was interviewed by members of the Hillside Strangler Task Force as part of their investigation of known sex offenders. Although Alcala was ruled out as a strangler, even though remember he strangled to death Criley, remember he, but he was although Alcala was ruled out as the strangler, not strangler. Okay, yes, he was still a strangler, but not the Hillside Strangler. He was arrested. Although Alcala was ruled out as the strangler, he was arrested and served a brief sentence for marijuana possession. During this period of time, Alcala convinced hundreds of young men and women that he was a professional fashion photographer and took pictures for them for his portfolio. A Los Angeles Times co-worker later recalled that Alcala shared his photos with workmates. He said, I thought, one of the workmates said, I thought it was weird, but I was young. I didn't know anything, she said. When I asked why he took the photos, he said their moms asked him to. And I remember the girls were naked, which means that was basically assault of a minor. He said he was a professional, so in my mind, now remember, this was the lady that was young, so she said, in my mind, I was being a model for him, said a woman who allowed Alcala to photograph her in 1979. The portfolio also included spread after spread of naked teenage boys, she said. Most of the photos are sexually explicit, and most of the subjects remain unidentified. Police fear that some of the subjects may be additional cold case victims, like Jane Doe or John Doe, which I don't think they were actually called that back in like 79, right? 79? Yeah. Now, this is where he's most noted for and why he's called the dating game serial killer. Because of the dating game show appearance. In 1978, Alcala was a contestant on the popular game show, The Dating Game. Host Jim Lange, or Lange, I think it's Lange because there's a G at the end. Jim Lange introduced him as a successful photographer. Obviously, he said between takes you might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Which successful photographer. Obviously, they didn't say, or they probably didn't say, "Hey, what are you photographer?" Like, "Hey, what do you photograph?" Because he would say, well, obviously he would probably make something up, but we all know that he photographed thousands of pictures of women and men and kids. And I wonder if that's obviously I'm pretty sure I could probably get the dating game show on Netflix or something. I wonder if that episode actually got pulled off the air. Well, anyway, well, after this incident, I mean. Well, alright, well, a fellow Bachelor contestant later described Alcala as a very strange guy with bizarre opinions, which, yeah. Alcala won the competition and a date with the episode's bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, who subsequently refused to go out with him because he found him creepy. Which, good on her part. And remember, this was right in his midst of his killing spree. Criminal profiler Pat Brown noting noted that Alcala killed at least 3 women after his dating game appearance, and she could be the fourth one. Exacerbating, exacerbating. Wait, hold on. Dating game. Wait, at least 3 women after his dating game appearance speculated that this rejection might have an exacerbating factor on more kills. One wonders what that did in his mind, Brown said. That is something he would not take too well. Psychopaths don't understand the rejection. They think that something is wrong with that girl. She played me. She played hard to get. She wanted to live. That's what Brown said. Alright. Um so remember that was the first part of the Rodney Alcala, aka the dating game serial killer's case, part 1. Now, next Monday, I'm going to be doing part 2. Alright? So I won't give you the hint on who am I doing for the next video until next video. Because the next video is still going to be Rodney Alcala. Alright, so please like, comment, and subscribe, please. You know, it doesn't cost anything. All you gotta do is just click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. All it does is just notify you. Well, or I don't even know if you had to hit the notification bell. It just, well, yeah, hit the notification bell, subscribe, like, comment. You know, it does. You know, all it does for you is that is that the notification just notifies you when I be posting next, which will be next Monday on this channel. And I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace.